Meeting to order. Mr. Horgan, would you lead us in a pledge of allegiance, please? Salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Republic, which is
Republic,
one
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
School committee chair report. I have nothing to report at this time. Resource committee.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. School building needs.
School building needs, we will be hearing tonight on Crocker Elementary School.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Seeing none. Policy committee.
No updates at this time.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Sally, you made it.
I made it. Hey.
Hi. How you doing?
Thank you, Sally.
Absolutely.
Okay. Student support committee.
Nothing new to report.
Okay, questions, comments? None. School personnel committee. I have nothing to report at this time. Executive committee, nothing as well. Do we have a student representative tonight?
We do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And would that be Ms. Scarpelletti? It is. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. This is Kaden.
Hi, everybody.
One of the
Hi,
student
everybody.
representatives reporting on the last
Kaden.
week of the 2019-2020 school year. This has certainly been a year like no other, and reflecting back, it is important to be thankful for the health, safety, and security of our school community. Given the conclusion of the school year is this Friday, June 19th, and the conclusion of my junior year of high school, I have listed just a few highlights of the school year below. Fitchburg High enrollment is currently 1,213. The class of 2020 will graduate 241 students. FHS has been recently notified that it has been recognized by the U.S. News and World Report Best High Schools list for the first time to go along with annual entry of the Washington Post Most Challenging Schools list. In 2019-2020, FHS earned the highest graduation rate in school history at 90.1% and the lowest dropout rate in school history at 0.7%. FHS students earned the highest attendance rate in the past 20 years, and the school was poised to improve on that this year. We have received approval for the Innovation Career Pathway Vocational Program and Advanced Manufacturing in 2020-2021, which will be of only 36 in Massachusetts. In addition, FHS received a $250,000 Massachusetts Skills Capital grant to purchase manufacturing equipment for these lab courses. The Early College High School Dual Enrollment Partnership is one of only 25 in the state of Massachusetts, and our nursing, healthcare, and liberal arts programs will also include an education pathway in 2021. In fact, FHS students successfully passed 230 college credits at no cost to any of the students. The senior class has taken more combined advanced placement courses and dual enrollment college courses than any other FHS graduating class in the school's history. In addition, there were more than 500 AP tests taken in over 16 AP subjects. The FHS marching band had its highest number of gold medals in many years and the earliest awards in the music season. The Red Raider athletic programs earned tournament opportunities: football, girls soccer, ice hockey, track and field, and many individuals earned all-star status, with 4 specifically signing letters of intent with academic athletic scholarships: Giovanni Moroni, UNH football; Winola Ashaju, UMass Lowell track and field; L. Scott, Fairfield University soccer; Latrell Bodie, Black Hills State football. FHS students have earned advanced placement scholar status, 87 earned the John and Abigail Adams scholarships, Posse Scholars nominations, United Way Youth Venture Changemaker of the Year awards, North Central Chamber of Commerce scholarships, the Massachusetts Seal of Biliteracy, and many other local, state, and national recognitions. There are numerous members of this class who are enlisting into the United States Armed Forces with a desire to serve our country. High school students have begun their journey to 140 Arnhow Farm Road from more than 30 different countries and many other states within America and cities in Massachusetts. There were many more successes both individually and amongst teams, groups, clubs, and the whole school, and these are the results of the hard work of our exceptional teachers, amazing students, and outstanding families. An additional congratulations to the class speaker and master of ceremonies. The class of 2020 votes to nominate an individual as class speaker and master of ceremonies at every graduation ceremony. This year, the class has selected 2 truly deserving individuals who have represented their class exceptionally well for the past 4 years. Congratulations to Alhana Wakar, one of the student representatives last year, as she tackles the role of Master of Ceremonies, and Kiara Pedraza as class speaker. The graduation ceremony will take place on July 5th at Crocker Field, 10 a.m. And as for the students of Fitchburg Public Schools, I think it is safe to say that we have been anxiously awaiting June 19th and cannot wait to throw our Chromebooks back in their cases for the rest of the summer and pray for as much normalcy as possible going into the next school year. Thank you all so much for helping to guide Fitchburg Public Schools to another successful year, despite all of the unforeseen challenges. Myself and all the students are very lucky to have such incredible guidance. Have a fantastic summer. Thank you.
Bye.
Mr. Mayor, you're on mute.
God, you think I get that right? Thank you. Caden, thank you for those words, and good luck next year. Boy, you'll have something to talk about for the rest of your life. You were that senior class. So good luck, and we wish you all the best, certainly the graduating seniors at Fitchburg High School. Have a great rest of your life, so to speak. So,
Mr. Mayor, could I just?
yes, go ahead, please.
So I read that list that Mr. Roach sent out, and that Caden just eloquently kind of went through, and it's really impressive. And I think in a time where every time you open your inbox and the news, you're just feeling like we're going so far behind in education or in the world. And it was just really heartening to see that list and knowing that Fitchburg High and the other schools in this district are really ready to, take that mantle up again when we can all be back together. And I think the opportunities that have been presented at the high school are just truly fantastic. So it was great to hear it tonight. It was great to read it. Well done.
Gene, is your daughter a senior?
She is graduating, yep.
She's graduating, yes. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's been surreal for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yep.
Jeannie's daughter is one of our most outstanding students in the class, and I believe she's going to attend Duke University.
She's going to be at UMass Amherst, and she's
going to UMass Amherst.
And she's looking at the public health masters, so the 5-year master program. So she's very excited. We're very excited. Go UMass.
But you know what? It shows sometimes where our students have been accepted to, not necessarily where they go, but the outstanding schools that they get accepted to. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Moving on to the agenda, approval of the minutes from the previous school committee meeting of June 1st, 2020.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes
Motion
from
made.
the last school committee meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of June 1st, 2020. We will call the roll of participants. Greenlees?
Yes, sir. Let's see. Mr. Mayor Di Natale,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Welsh,
Yes.
Mrs. Cragen. Ms. Cragen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Horgan.
Yes.
We are unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be going into executive session following the end of the meeting. We will be voting on going into executive session, only to return to adjourn. Communications? Anyone wishing to make a communication of any kind. Seeing that, I will take this opportunity. I had the pleasure of being invited to the grade 4, kind of like their mini graduation, moving on to grade 5. And these kids are all at Crocker School, and boy, what a year they had. I mean, Passio School for a while, then St. Anthony School, now COVID-19. They said, there's nothing you guys will ever keep you down in your life after going through all this stuff. And I want to send out a shout out to the young people that were on that Zoom call today, but also the teachers. And this remote learning they're doing an outstanding job. And I think there were 4 classes, 4 different 4th grades. Sarah Hurley, Miss Sarah Hurley is one of the teachers, Dora Lomé, Macy Woodard, and Jessica Gerard. Thank you all for what you're doing. And I thank the kids. They were all terrific. It was gratifying. Any other comments or communications? Seeing none, moving on. Public comment. Do we have anyone wishing to make a public comment? No, Bob?
Nope, none that I'm aware of, Mayor.
Okay. Moving on. Superintendent's report. Mr. Jokola.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would request that we go a little bit out of order in the items presented on the agenda. Tonight, we have a few representatives of SOM Architecture with us to present on the conceptual design for the Crocker Elementary project. So, Mr. Chair, if that request is acceptable to you, I propose that SOM present first.
Certainly.
Okay. So, Diana, Ed, Rosalind, I'm turning the floor over to you, and hopefully our Nate Glennie can queue up the SOM presentation for us to get started.
All right, I will share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
See if I can pull up the full screen here. Oops. Okay. So I know that some of you, let's click through here. Some of you know we started this process last winter, so a little over a year ago. We kind of kicked it off with 2 full days of visioning that was conducted with the educational planning consultant that we brought on board to help with this project. And we brought together staff, administration, parents, community members, people across the district, and us as the architects also participated in these 2 days, and really brought everyone together to kind of for everyone to contribute and kind of brainstorm about where they see education going in the future and what they ideally want to be, the kind of education they want to be delivering to their students going forward. And so that was kind of the kicking off point to give us a starting point for forming the physical shell for what your school will be, help you deliver on that education. One of the takeaways from those sessions were these organizational diagrams that Frank drew. So these are the product of the discussions that day. And one of the main concepts you can see here is a public zone, which is more community facing, more easily accessible to people who are visiting the building. And then a more secure zone, which consists of the classrooms, the media center. You can see the classrooms are grouped into these, what we're calling learning communities. So they're kind of smaller clusters of classrooms, which in our case are going to be 1 grade level each. And then you can see within that, there's kind of another layer of clustering is the lower elementary and upper elementary clustering. And in this original diagram from last year, when we were considering both K through 4 and K through 8 scenarios, which also included pre-K, we were accounting for a separate pickup drop-off for that pre-K grouping of classrooms, their own parking. And since last year, we've changed the grouping of grades that we're looking at and reassessed the enrollment numbers. So we've updated this diagram now and removed the pre-K and the K. So it's just a 1 through 5. The main difference being that there's not that separate pickup drop-off anymore. But the general organization of having a public zone and a more secure zone remains the same. So from there, we dove into these space summaries. So this is based on a template that MSBA provides for all projects. And we enter the number of students, and you can see in these right-hand columns, it pretty much spits out the number of spaces, the size of the spaces that they would expect us to include in a school of your size. So from there, the district, along with Frank Locker, we went line by line through this and really assessed what spaces we did in fact need that they were recommending, what spaces that maybe weren't necessary for your school. And then we also assessed what spaces you have in your current school that MSBA doesn't provide for, but that you really definitely need. It's part of the core part of the education that you're delivering. And then there were also some spaces that through visioning and our discussions with Frank that became clear that you didn't have in your current school, but it would be really critical for you in the new school as well. So having gone through that process, the total square footage that we end up with is a little bit under what MSBA is actually recommending for a school of your enrollment size. So that's giving us a really good starting point. And then from there, we took all this information we've gathered and kind of translated Frank's organizational diagram to something that has some scale. So here you can see like the actual relationship of the size of these learning communities to the media center, the art and music spaces, and the cafeteria gym. So this is kind of the next step in that process. And from here, we dove into applying this organization and the scale to your actual site. And Diana will take it away from there, talking about our design options.
Thanks, Rosalyn. Before I get into those options, I just want to give everybody a little bit of context regarding our process in designing the new school. The MSBA has a very well articulated series of phases that we go through, and we are in the first phase where we're wrapping it up, which is the PDP phase. So for that, the spreadsheet that Rosalyn showed you is really essential for them. They want to understand what's going to go in this school and how how big is it, how efficient we are trying to make it, and see what other options, what other things the district might be considering. So that's an important piece of it. Then we also will include all of the options that you are about to see, and they will have a very high level construction cost estimate with them. We are working with our cost consultant right now to understand what those look like. So these drawings that we're showing you tonight are 6 very conceptual diagrams that allow us to understand how the building could fit on the site, what the circulation would be of the people inside the building, and what some of the vehicular circulation would look like as well. So when we move into the next phase, we'll take 3 of those options. One of them will be one of the ad renos, at least one. And then we really start to get into more design on those and really start to understand them. So what you see tonight is very much sort of a check on the program that we've developed and how it could work on the site. So this will not be by any means, the design that you're going to see on day 1 when Crocker opens. So anyway, I mentioned that there'll be 3 options in the next phase. We'll work through those 3 options, and then with the district, we will all establish a preferred solution. So the next phase is longer, and we'll have time to think about the pros and cons of all of these. So with that, let's go to the first one. We're going to start with the ad reno schemes. So I'm going to start in all cases with a site plan, and you can see, maybe Rosalyn, you can show people stuff with your mouse too. So the dark gray that you see there is the existing building footprint. That's the roof plan. you can see to the left of the building, which is on the west side of the site, we're demolishing the existing classroom wing there. So anything that's dashed is to be demolished. And then you can see the addition that's on the north side. The red arrow will indicate on all of these the main entrance to the building. And then you'll see where the bus drop-off is. You want to point up there. And then where the service will be. So those icons are consistent on all of the site plans. So let's go to the next. Okay, so this is option one in more detail. Let's look at the main level plan, which is in the middle. So this is, you can see here that you have the existing building, and it has sort of the darker, more saturated colors. And up on the right in all of these, you'll have the legend if you want to sort of understand what each of these parts and pieces are. So let's start with the existing volume on this particular one in the main level. You'll see the purple is the existing cafeteria and kitchen. And then you'll see the light purple that would have to be added on. And you'll see this in all the schemes of the renovation. Because we have a larger population, a larger enrollment number for the new Crocker Elementary relative to what we have now, you need to expand the cafeteria or the auditoria, as we call it, with lots of names for the space, and then also the gym. So you can see sort of the dark pink now, and then the lighter pink that would expand it. So the yellow block is the main entrance admin area now, and that would remain. And then to the right, you can see the existing second level of the East Wing. This is for those of you that are familiar with all the work that's been done on that building in the last year. We would propose to connect from the main level of the entrance volume to the upper level and make that an accessible connection. So on that level, you would have the media center would be in the orange, and then the light green might be your music and art. And again, this is all very conceptual. Things will move around in design. So then north of the existing building, we have these connectors to this new classroom wing. And that's a great option because you could build the classroom wing while the existing building remained occupied. You can see also that on each of these, you can kind of look at how you would divide the volume in half. So you would have 2 learning communities on each floor. So a learning community, we're thinking at this point, is probably around 6 classrooms. And then there'll be some shared space outside of the classrooms. And you'll see a number of configurations that show that sort of relationship of some open space that the teachers can use. And then they'll all have sort of, support spaces. There'll be restrooms intermingled within different bundles of learning communities and, things like vertical circulation and sped classrooms and some of those things. So this is just a 2-story version that shows that. So that would allow for 4 learning communities, 1 for each grade. And then if we look at the lower level, that's again the existing building, that would also act as its own learning community as well. So overall, I mentioned the ease of construction. This is one of the options that has what we consider to be the ideal classroom orientation, because all the classrooms are facing north and south. It's much easier to control the quality of light with that orientation than it is on the east and the west. So we've tried to use that concept in a lot of what you're going to see tonight. The nice thing about having a separate classroom wing is that you also have sort of easier security management. You could close off, 80% of the classrooms at once if you need to. So all of these options are also going to require structural seismic upgrades to the existing building. So we just noted that as a con on all of them because it is a cost where you're not getting sort of new square footage. You're paying just to shore up the existing structure to meet current codes. Having a separate volume also is going to require a longer travel distance. So this one has one of the longer ones, but this one will have 2 elevators. Some of our options have 1. This one happens to have 2 though. And then anything that we do where we're building north of the building, we're going to be taking up more of the fields that are up there now. So you're occupying more of the northern part of the site. And then I mentioned that we're going to create the accessible connection. So that's option 1. So option 2, again, you can see the gray is the existing building and we have similar drop-offs. On this one, however, we're proposing that you put a 3-story classroom addition on the face of the existing building. Go to the next one. So let's again start with the main level. You can see the new classrooms that are in a line on the face of the building. I mean, that would be nice because then you could have this sort of new facade, new identity for the school, even with a renovation. You have one elevator in this option. And again, the new classrooms are all south-facing, which is advantageous. So some of the cons on this include the main entrance. You're going to have to basically split a learning community on that first level to create a corridor. And those two sort of split areas are going to have their own security enclosure as well. So that particular learning community would have less sort of shared space and interactive opportunity. It's a 3-story addition as opposed to a 2-story that we looked at. The construction on this one would definitely be more disruptive. I mean, your current entrance would basically be closed off for the duration of that addition construction. And then ultimately, like once this is built, those classrooms are all going to be looking south-facing, which is good, except that the views of that are more sort of the parking lots and that idea. I think we all know that the northern part of the site, you can see a lot more of the forests, and we're trying to really emphasize biophilic concepts, which means we're trying to connect everybody in the building to nature, and it's harder to do in this option than some. So then I'll just add that we will also then keep the 2 existing levels of classrooms in the east wing. And you'll see that there is a connection there. Once you get onto the second level of the existing wing, you could connect to the other classrooms. So the learning communities are not so sort of compact and unified in these. Let's go to the third option. So in this one, again, we have the existing building in gray. We're proposing that you do a 2-story addition to the west and that it's 2 volumes, and I'll explain why in a minute on the next slide. So I'm going to start, well, I'll get to this, but the 2 volumes that you see there on the left, you might think, why are you separating those? But I just want to reiterate that the classroom orientation is really important. And so what these 2 volumes are, they're each 2 stories, and each story is a learning community. So you get 4 learning communities that have these very distinct boundaries. Everybody's clear which learning community it is, and the shared space is all theirs. Like you'll see other options where the shared space is sort of connected to 2 different learning communities. So that's a real plus for this option. The sequencing of construction would also be a lot simpler on this one than on the previous one. And then the 5th learning community would, again, be on that lower level of the east wing. So that might be nice for the 5th grade or, a grade that you want for some reason to be separated. So like the last option, the central communal area and then the specials and the media center, the orange, are all laid out in a very similar way. And then if we just look at the cons, again, we have 2 elevators on this one. And it may be a little more challenging to incorporate additional parking on this one because we're taking some of that real estate on the west side of the existing building. And we will still have to do the seismic upgrades, as I mentioned. All right, so this is a summary page that shows these 3 options. And now we'll move on to the new options. And we're happy to answer questions after all of these. So, okay, so option A. Option A is 2 sort of bar-like geometries. The one that's sort of got the angled walls is a classroom bar, as we call it. It's an independent classroom building, and it has 2 connections to the main building that's going to have the communal spaces, the gym, the caf, those kinds of things. So the red arrow again shows you where the entrance is, and the bus drop-off is closer to the main entrance in this one. Let's go to the next slide. So this one is only 2 stories, which is kind of nice. You can see that the classroom wing is that, as I mentioned, that bar that has 5 articulated learning communities. So the reason that the upper level is a longer bar is because the site goes up in that area. Rosalind's showing in this section in the lower left. So we're trying to take advantage or work with the existing topography. And this is an example of that so that we don't have to do a lot of excavation because site costs are something we need to watch very carefully. So the main volume, you enter into the area that has this sort of admin function as well. And you see the media center. So there are some concepts we've looked at and some that we looked at envisioning where, visitors to the school have a secure entrance, but they also have maybe some sort of view of things happening in the school, like classrooms or the media center, and they get a sense of sort of what some of the activities are like for the students. So the main level would also have all the specials on it, and then the gym and caf, and then the classrooms just remain independent. So it's nice to have the gym and the caf so close to the main entrance. Again, for the public events, you can close it off easily. You have better security. You have this, as I mentioned, the distinct learning communities. But this one would be likely, and we still don't know this for sure, but likely less economical because you have a lot more building envelope, which per square foot is one of your more expensive items in construction. And again, it's in addition to the north. So you're going to be occupying even more of the northern landscape, because in this case, you're building this whole building behind the existing building so that it can remain occupied during construction. Okay, let's go to option B. So this has some similarities to the one that we just looked at, but it's a more compact footprint. It does kind of have a classroom bar, but that kind of melds in with the common areas. So let's go to the next slide. So let's start with the main level. Actually, let's start with the lower level because that's where you're going to enter. And you can see that we have a smaller admin there, but again, you need that near the entrance. And then you see the media center is sort of this big open space that separates the cafetorium from the specials, and then that's shown as admin, but it could be additional classroom types. I think we talked about the Title I classroom, that sort of program item. And then you go to the main level where we have one learning community on the left, and then a second one that's spread out, so in front of the gym volume. You might be able to look down into the cafeteria or the gym. Sorry, that's the cafeteria there. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that one. And then there's the third level, which is 3 learning communities. And again, we've tried to make sure that the circulation for each learning community is independent, so they're not walking through that shared space. It may be a pro, it may be a con to have specials on a different floor. You can see we've tried different arrangements with that throughout these. And we'd also have to look carefully at how the gym sits on the site. Again, you're sloping down to the east. So, okay. Finally, option C. So this one's a bit different. It's a more compact footprint, certainly, than option A. So you can see you have this very central entrance, and then you're going to have the service in the back, and you're still going to have a separate drop-off area for the buses and the cars. But the rest of the parking is still pretty far away from the building. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this one has this entrance that sort of creates an axis within this building. So looking at the main level, you're going to come in through the admin space, or things that support admin, and then you're going to be pretty much in the zone where the media center would be, and that could be enclosed, it could be open, and then you can see beyond that into the cafeteria, which will have a nice view of all of the landscape around the back of the site. Again, this is one of the schemes where you could easily close off the building just to have the communal spaces available to the public. So on the main level, you're going to have one learning community there to the east. And these classrooms most of the classrooms are oriented north-south, not all of them at the moment. That's something we'd probably explore further in the next option though. And then they have that central space in the middle. You'd also have one on the lower level. And then the upper level would have 3 different learning communities. So the one in the middle is different than obviously all of the others. And maybe that's the 5th grade, or maybe that's a grade that you want separately. But it's still sort of a distinct area, and the circulation can go around that. So that one's a bit larger. And then you would also have, maybe some specials on that floor as well. So this one's more economical, as I said, than option A, because there's less envelope. And it is nice to have the common spaces centrally located. We're also taking advantage of the site. So the fact that you have 3 stories on the lowest part of the site, and then as the site goes uphill, you only have 1. So it's a good use of the landscape in that way. It does, again, occupy more of the north part of the landscape. And then that upper learning community is something that I think would evolve in the next option if we choose to advance this one. But we also understand that there are some operational advantages in the way that this one is set up. So I've said a lot, and we look forward to hearing more what your questions are and comments.
I have a few questions if I.
Sure. Do we want to leave the screen up while we're discussing things? I don't know if that's helpful.
I just jotted down. Did you see if I understand? C involves 3 floors, did you say?
It does. And so 1 floor is really just a single learning community, the lowest floor. And then you have 2 on the main level. And then you have, sorry, can you go back to option C for us?
Sure, yeah. Hang on, sorry, 1 second.
So you have 1 on the bottom and then 2 in the middle. I think, no, I'm wrong. You have 1 on the lowest level, 1 on the mid level, and then you have 3 on the upper level.
And the dining room is where?
That's the purple area.
On which level?
So that would also be on the main level. When we have the big X's that are on the pink and the purple, that really indicates it's the same space, but it's a taller volume. So you're looking at sort of that space above us. Sorry, I should have explained that. Yeah, so that's what the X's are. But.
And in all 3 options, do you have the same number of classrooms?
We do. The spreadsheet that Rosalind showed is really something that we have to stick to very carefully in terms of MSBA compliance, but also just to really be able to compare schools. So yes, they may have different configurations with respect to things like, the sped classroom, or the way the restrooms are laid out, or the shared space, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about the restrooms. We didn't talk about those, and I don't know if they're indicated on and other teachers' rooms. And
the teachers' rooms would be in those learning communities as well. And Rosalind, you can jump in on these too. But we didn't really show the restrooms as standalone spaces.
Yeah, exactly. At this stage, we're still at pretty high level space planning. So I think as we get more granular, we're going to get more specific about exactly where some of those spaces are. But the idea is that they'll be part of the learning communities.
Teachers' restrooms and the students' restrooms.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there a anticipated time difference in completion with these plans?
No, they're probably both similar. That if you're doing new construction, then it's going to be fairly similar to the ad reno, because you're going to have to phase that. When you're expanding the gym and the CAF in the existing building, that's going to take time and will likely be done separately from the classroom volumes that we've shown.
And then my final question is, how have you considered security issues?
So that's one of the pieces that drives the options where we have a separate classroom volume, and we've also looked at the fact that the admin needs to be located near the front. It's always good to have for the admin to have some view of the entrance portion of the site as well, and we've tried to be consistent in that, with the exception of the second ad reno option where you have those classrooms in the front. But generally, we've provided views to that part of the site. So and the fact that site slopes down there is also good because you can see a fair amount. I think we do have a security consultant on board, and we will be looking at that very carefully through all of the phases. But everything we've shown from a sort of circulation point of view, we didn't always draw walls where you would have walls, but you would have ways to close off the building in the event that something happens, or even if just security when you're having people come to the common spaces.
Right, because everything was security driven up until this COVID time, and they'll have to be melded together somehow.
That is true.
Could I ask, is there something that is there an option that is the most energy efficient? I mean, I don't know if you've gotten to that stage of the planning, but what are some of the differences?
So at this point, I mean, once we get it further into the design, we'll have energy models involved, and we'll be able to sort of have data to back that up. That is one of the reasons that we look at the classrooms being oriented north and south, because on the north, you don't really have to shade anything, right? You're not going to have direct light. And on the south, you can put horizontal shading in. So, it's easier to control the light. Whereas when you have a lot of elevation facing the east and west, you have to do vertical shading, which is awkward, and it means that your light quality is very different throughout the day, and it changes quickly. So that's sort of the main thing driving that at the moment. Yeah, I think that's
inherently. I think the schemes that have less exterior skin or perimeter are usually more energy efficient. So I think the more efficient the building layout is, we'll see better results energy-wise as the design progresses and we do the energy modeling.
We'll also work really closely. We have mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers who will help us work through analysis on that. We also have a sustainability consultant who will support their work. So you will definitely hear more about security and energy efficiency in the next phase. That'll be part of our comparison of the 3 selected options.
Diana, in option B, what do you mean by gym elevation?
So, the site slopes down from the west to the east, right? And the way that building, like this is a wide building across the site. So we have the gym all the way over to the east, and that's where your grade is the lowest. And this is still very conceptual. So there are a couple things we could do. We could, if that section were like 100% accurate, you could raise the gym level, the gym volume up some. That's going to be more expensive. You could, just because you're going to fill in some of the site to do that, but then you might have access from the gym to the exterior at the same level as the main entrance. So that could be a pro. Or you could have a ramp on the inside, or some level change. It wouldn't even have to be a ramp, but it could be a very gradual level change. So that's the kind of thing we look at in the next phase. But just at this point, we recognize that that's a challenge we're going to look at in the next phase.
So Diana, this is Bob here. So Sam and Colliers, who are the owner's project manager, presented these options to the Crocker Building Committee recently, which Mr. Stevens and the mayor are committee members of. And again, really, this was just to kind of introduce the high-level conceptual thinking that's going on and looking at 3 ad reno options and 3 new construction options. And this is part of the, I guess, prescriptive MSBA process. So Diane, I was wondering if you could just share with the school committee, now that you've completed these conceptual drawings, what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months?
Okay, so within the next week or so, we will, I think Rosalind is targeting Friday because she's working on this. We will submit this with the appropriate documents, like the spreadsheet of the space summary, to the MSBA. And what this document does is it sort of confirms that we're all moving in the right direction. The designers, the city, we know that we have a certain number of classrooms, a certain square footage. We know that all of these things can fit on this site. And we have a very rough idea of what it costs to do each of those. So for the MSBA, it's just kind of a gut check, really. They want to make sure we understand that enrollment is a certain thing, and you've all worked hard to make sure we've got a mutual agreement on enrollment. And then they want you to sort of take all these ideas and then narrow it down in the next phase. So within the next 3 to 6 months, we'll do what's called the preferred solutions phase, but it starts with 3 options. And you do a fair amount of studying those buildings. You look at security, you look at energy efficiency, you look at your site costs, those kinds of things. And then, you talk to some more people about how things work, the classrooms, what we want the learning communities to look like. We get into more detail and thinking. And then we say, as a team, Fitchburg's going to say, we really like option whatever, B3 or whatever it's going to be at that point. And then we sort of have to justify that for MSBA, why it is the preferred solution. So, you may decide you want a new school as opposed to ad reno, and we sort of document why that is and what the advantages of that are. So, and then that will also be accompanied by more detailed cost estimates than what we have now. And that probably supports the decision on the preferred solution as well. So that's kind of where we are in the next 3 to 6 months. And then following that, once MSBA says, yes, we like this, you're fine, they allow us to move into schematic design. And that's what happens next. So then we go to schematic design, design development, construction documents, and then we're ready to bid. So it is a lengthy process, but it gives you all enough time to really understand what we're doing, what we're working through, and how, and also for the MSBA to understand, that we're doing everything in the way that they look for it to be done.
This is Jim Walsh. Just a quick question. Is completely new construction options more expensive than the renovation and new construction? Are they about the same, or if there is a difference, how much of a difference is there between the two?
That's a great question. We are still working with our estimators right now on all 6 of these options. So I can't say with 100% certainty either one or the other. But one of the things that the design team will also share with the district is a life cycle cost analysis. So you can understand your initial investment versus the operating costs. So you might have a more expensive new building than an ad reno, but you're not going to be maintaining an older building. You're going to have up-to-date, mechanical systems, and you can map out how quickly you will get the return on your investment of a new building in terms of operational costs. So,
thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for the SOM team? Sally, any questions?
No, I'm just taking all of this in because it is a challenging site more than, well, actually, I mean, all of our schools are built on these slopes, but thinking about that north-south orientation, I know from walking through Crocker that one of the issues I've heard from, teachers and kids is that distance in the walking. So I'm intrigued by all of this, and I look forward to hearing more. This is a big adventure, and it's exciting, but I I'm not really, I don't have a preference at this point. I couldn't possibly, I don't know if anyone could, but I think that some, really good principles are going into big picture. So, but right now the admin, the cafetorium, the gym are very close to the entrance. So they were thinking of this in 1964 or 5 as well. Anyway, just some random observations. Thanks.
I just want to add that also in the next phase, things will become three-dimensional. And so we plan to do some model building. So hopefully we can all meet in person at some point, or we can show you the model or send it to you. And then we'll also be doing, computer modeling in 3 dimensions as well, which allows us to sort of, look into a space and understand the volume relative to the size of, a 4th grader, that kind of thing. So that will also help contribute to the decision making and just the general understanding of the design.
One thought has just occurred to me. May I speak now? Okay. Okay. Rosemary Reynolds. We don't know where we're going with this COVID and how we're going to be fluid. What is the word? We're going to be nimble. We're going to be nimble. But is all of this based on classrooms as we knew them in the past? I know I've heard conversations about what Mount Wachusett is doing. And so I'm wondering if you're just taking into consideration nimbleness. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's something that we have to think of very carefully. And I think we have some time to understand that. I don't think that the footprints of the classroom would change drastically, but there may be ways that, there are simple things like you might decide it would be good to have a sink, a hand washing station within every classroom, for instance. Or you may look at ways that, spaces can be reconfigured so that people are further apart, or you look at what the common spaces can do if you have half the students in a classroom and then you have, students that occupy the common spaces.
All of those things. And
yeah, it's just going to be,
yeah.
And really we would work closely with the district on their approach to that, because I think different districts are looking at different options too.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, Diana, Ed, and Rosalind, I want to thank you for presenting the conceptual options to the school committee tonight, and we look forward to working with you more and moving this project forward. So, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So if we return to the agenda, next I'd like to recognize the teachers who are retiring at the end of this year, who have already put in for their retirement. We have 11 teachers representing 268 years of service with an average of 24 years. And just looking at the listing, the longest tenured teacher started with us 34 years ago, back in 1986. And the average teacher with us has been with us for 24 years. And, I'm just going to take a few minutes to go, name each teacher, and you'll see their years of service. But, as we were just talking about the project and really having 3-dimensional, feature for the next presentation. And, this year, this is an adaptation or an, evolution of our presentations in this pandemic world. And many of our teachers retiring don't have the opportunity to say goodbye to all of their students other than through virtually. So, Nate, if I can just ask you to go back, I'll just one slide to get it started. You were just a little bit ahead of me. So first, Jane Wagner, a pre-K teacher over at Crocker, 34 years of service. Thank you, Jane.
Excuse me, Nate. Can you, I'm in the way of the teacher. Superintendent Jockler and I are covering up the picture. Can you get me out of there? Or put me some other place? Does that make sense to you?
It's one of the buttons on your screen that you're going to have to push.
Okay, what do I push?
The little rectangle above the windows.
Chat about.
You can drag that box, Rosemary.
I can drag the teacher over, or I can drag.
You can drag the little like strip of all the images. You can drag that box away so you can see the teacher.
Okay, now I see Eugene. Okay, but I see the teacher too. It's okay, it's better. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Thomas, special education teacher at Fitchburg High School, 34 years of service to the school department. Colleen Hirons, English teacher at Fitchburg High School, 33 years.
Wow.
Stephen Dauphinais, English teacher at Fitchburg High School, 28 years of service. Mick O'Reilly, gym phys ed teacher over at Memorial, 28 years. Ellie Ortiz, social studies teacher over at Longstreet, 25 years. Patty Curran, teacher at South Street Elementary, 24 years. Kathleen Martin, speech pathologist at South Street, 24 years. Lori Romano, math teacher over at Memorial, 20 years. Maureen Moore, pre-kindergarten teacher, ETL at Central Office, 13 years. Sorry, we don't have a picture of Maureen. Tim Robinson, math coach at South Street Elementary, 5 years service at South Street. And that concludes the presentation. So thank you all. You'll be receiving we have something for you. We have a gift voucher that we'll be emailing you, and it'll be redeemable for one Red Raider Coach Polo, which you can send to Athletic Director Craig Ann Tossi for redemption. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Okay, continuing on the agenda, Dave Semenza, our Director of Nutrition Services, is here tonight to give us an update on the summer meals program. So Dave,
go ahead.
The screen is yours.
Share my screen?
Yeah, I can no longer say the floor is yours. The screen is yours.
Let me know if that looks all right.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I just want to give a quick update on where the meal program is heading for the summer. Before I get into that, just an update on the meal kits. Since the school closure in mid-March, we, through last Friday, had served, we're closing in 150,000. That's 149,161 meals served, breakfast and lunch, to families all over Fitchburg. We're averaging about close to 10,000 meals a week, breakfast and lunch combined. So again, shout out to the nutrition services staff. They have really stepped up to the plate and have just done a great job with a smile on their faces every single day, providing the meals. So as the school year comes to a close and we are in the summer, folks still need good food, and we are happy to continue to provide it. So we will be transitioning Monday the 22nd into our summer feeding program. It's really not going to change much to what we've been doing. We've been operating under the USDA summer food service program since the closure. Some special waivers were granted by USDA to allow school districts to provide meals during the closure, operating under these program rules. So in general, just a summary of what the general purpose of the summer food service program is. It is a USDA program that allows high-need communities the opportunity to ensure children continue to receive nutritious meals when school is not in session. We have been operating a food service program for over 20 years here in Fitchburg. And we will continue to provide it this summer. Same rules that have been applying the last couple of months, as well as previous summers, anyone 18 or under. So again, I had mentioned USDA has granted waivers to allow districts to continue to operate under the modified food service, summer food service meal rules through August 31st. These waivers allow us to provide non-congregate meal service and the ability for grab and go meals. Our traditional summer program meals are served in a manner. One of the rules, a couple of the rules we have to follow is meals have to be consumed on site, and meals have to be can only be provided to the child that is present. The rules that we've been granted waivers for are allowing for and encouraging folks to pick up the meals to take home. In the current situation we're in, the goal is to not have folks, gather to eat a meal in a school community. It's to take them home so they have a nutritious meal. So we've been granted those waivers through August 31st. So grab meals will continue through the remainder of the summer, or through the summer. So we are going to be changing a few of our meal service sites, some minor changes. Again, all these, what I'm about to talk about now, some are currently going on, and some are changes that will go into effect next week. So for the remainder of the summer, the schools listed, or again, not the remainder of the summer, the summer meals up through August, Crocker, McKay, Longshore Memorial Elementary, and Rheingold Elementary will be providing lunch pickup for that day, as well as breakfast the next morning. South Street Elementary School, we will be suspending meal service there, or meal pickup there, as of the end of this week, due to the construction that's going to be taking place at the building. With all the scaffolding and construction equipment, there was some safety concerns over folks coming and going to pick up meals. So, we've been talking to folks, getting meals at South Street about that, and we will be sending out some information midweek this week, do social media blasts and things like that, letting folks know these are the school pickup sites for meals for the summer. Park sites, we will beginning on June 22nd, be providing meal pickup options at some of our outdoor parks at Green Street Playground, Coolidge Park, Park Hill Playground, Crocker Playground, and Goodrich Playground. Same rules that we're doing at the school sites. We'll set up with a van and a table. Folks can come, let us know how many meals they need. We provide them with the meals because it's an outdoor site. Folks, if they want to, have bring a blanket, have a picnic at the park, or take the meals home, we'll have the option to do that. Again, lunch for that day and breakfast pickup for the next morning. Fridays, we allow folks to pick up additional meals to get them through the weekends. And we've streamlined our bus routes. We've, through the end of this week, we have our 15 bus sites starting on 22nd, we're going to be cutting down to the 7 bus stops listed here. A couple of reasons for that. 5 of the bus stops are in very close proximity. Some are even at the 5 listed parks that we had on the previous screen. So I'm actually going to go back one screen. So each of those parks, Green Street Playground, Park, Coolidge, Park Hill, Crocker, and Goodrich, there's a bus stop currently serving them within, some are at the park, some are within a quarter of a mile, very close. So we'll be transitioning to those park sites. And a few of the bus stops that we started serving at, we're just, some days we don't serve any meals at our site. So we're going to allocate those resources a little bit better, using the parks and focusing on some of these other bus stops. We did put together a map of where in and around the city the sites are located. Any of the orange stars on that map are a free meal pickup site for anyone 18 or under. Again, children do not have to be present. Parents can pick them up. They just simply let us know how many meals they need. We put them in a bag, hand them to them, and they are theirs to take home. Or if it's at a park site, have a picnic if it's a nice day. Just some notes about the pickup. The school sites, meals pickups will remain at the main entrance, except at Longzhou. That will be at the doors on Academy Street. Parks, we ask folks look for the nutrition services team members with the blue and gray coolers. We have T-shirts, we'll have signs, and 2 of our sites will have our bands that have our graphics on them. Summer eats and pictures of fruit and things like that. And at the bus stops, meals are distributed from coolers by the bus personnel. Just again, some of the rules that we've been operating under that we will continue. Meals are at no cost. Anyone 18 or under can be picked up at any location. Anyone 18 or under is eligible to receive a meal at no cost. Again, enrollment in the Fitchburg schools is not required, and residency in Fitchburg is not required. Anyone 18 or under, regardless of city or town they live in, is eligible to receive meals. If there's out-of-town family visiting, again, there's come to Coolidge, have some meals, have a picnic, socially distanced from other folks that might be at the park, or, pick up the meals and, have a picnic in your backyard at home. But again, anyone 18 or under, there are no other restrictions other than that. We still encourage family, friends, neighbors to help. If folks know of anyone who might struggle or not be able to get to any of the feeding sites during these serving times, and are able to help, simply go to one of the sites, let them know you're there to pick up meals for however many folks 18 and under that you're picking up meals for. We'll provide them, and then they can be delivered, dropped off to someone's house. Again, friend, neighbor, family member living in another home. It does not have to be the person in the residence picking up the meals. Just a few notes about social distancing and public safety measures. We are ensuring all meals are served as safely as possible. We have very strict protocols with kitchen cleanliness and disinfecting, things like that. Proper social distancing is practiced by all meal service staff. We're going to be operating 2 kitchens this summer to ensure we have 2 separate teams. That way we can spread out in the kitchen, so we don't have 14, 15 staff members working in one kitchen. Will be split, have 7 or so in each kitchen with the ability to distance. Masks by my staff are required at all times when preparing and serving the meals. We set up our service areas to ensure proper social distancing. We use tables and cones as barriers, and plenty of signage to let folks know to respect folks' space and things like that. Updates, we ask, we provide updates as things change. And as I mentioned, we'll be, I'm going to be working with Chad Gardner this week to get some updates up on the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as the Fitchburg Schools main website, just with updates on service times and locations. And with the ever-changing nature of what we're dealing with, the sites that I listed are simply what we're planning on starting with. At any point, we can take on more sites if needed. Some of our traditional summer programming at the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club that we provide meals to, they're still working to put plans together, and if they have programs, meals will be provided at those sites as well. And if there's any other sites that we identify in Fitchburg where meal service is needed, we'll be able to take it on. Again, those sites that we listed are not they're not the final list. It's going to be likely an ever-growing list as we still continue to navigate this and build the plane as we fly it, as we've all been liking to say. So. And again, just the map of those sites that up for a moment. I did want to talk briefly about what school lunch and school breakfast is going to look like come the fall. The short answer is we're not sure yet. We are still working with, interpreting the guidance from the state and also, working with the Sodexo team to come up with the best options that we can do. A lot of it will depend on the manner in which students are in school. Rest assured, there will be meal service for the students of the Fitchburg Public Schools, regardless of the school model we're under, whether it's a full remote, whether it's a partial, or some combination thereof. Everything is on the table, from classroom delivery of meals home delivery if possible, sending meals home with students for the next day. You know, if we were to operate under a every other day sort of model, the kids in school on Monday would be provided meals to take home for the next day, and then the kids that are in school on Tuesday would be provided meals to take home, everything like that. All those options are on the table, and we're working on plans to implement whatever is needed, whichever model works the best, to allow us to make sure the kids of the Fitchburg schools continue to get the best meals possible.
So Dave, thank you for that. I just want to add that I appreciate your flexibility as we await additional guidance from DESE in regards to the model that Fitchburg and other schools are likely to open, you know, on August 31st. You know, as Dave mentioned, I think we and all of the districts in the state will be asked to be very flexible on our model, and given the state of the pandemic, we may move from you know, one form of the model to another. You know, the only thing I can share is that we'll be receiving information soon, some initial guidance from DESE soon, and more details, I'll say, over the next month. The commissioner and their task force are working very diligently to try to get information out to districts, families, staff across the Commonwealth. So stay tuned.
Any questions about meal services that we've been providing or will be providing this summer?
I had the thought of the South Fitchburg area that's very densely populated there. And South Street, would they normally be going to South Street School, and that's going to be relocated?
So we're not yet. The South Street area is one we're looking at. We're trying to figure out the best way, the best location to come up with a site. Now, the South Fitchburg area, you know, in the area of Lady Road, the state pool, that's going to be one of our dedicated bus stop sites still. And that's one of our biggest sites. That neighborhood is still going to be covered. But yeah, and this area, right, where's my mouse? This area right here normally would have been serviced by South Street. We're still trying to come up with a good option for there. Again, the sites we have, nothing is set in stone. And you know, if I plan on speaking with Park and Rec Department, you know, regarding potential good park areas that might be near South Street and walking distance, things like that, identify the best spot to potentially provide more meal access for folks.
Yeah. I'd just like to point out, I've been picking up the school lunches for my kids to provide a sense of consistency in their lives. I've also been picking up for another family, and then I've added another family that I've been picking up. And people should really know that, you know, it's there for them. It's there for the kids. And that the job that, you know, the cheerfulness of the Sodexo workers, the fact that it's, you know, it's nicely packaged and efficient, can go right in the fridge. This has been a real bright spot in, you know, a pretty dim time. So kudos to Dave, Chef Dave, and all the staff for keeping this rolling. This is a big project, the school feeding and the lunch and breakfast. It's been really well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. As one of my staff members told me when a month or so ago when we were chatting about this, when he said to them, you know, you guys smile on your face every day. You know, and she looked at me and just matter of factly, we feed kids. It's what we do. So it's just profound. That just has stuck with me. And there, you know, many of my staff, aside from weekends, haven't had a day off since February. And every single day, And, I told several of them, we're going to work in some time off for you this summer. You have earned it. So we actually have meetings tomorrow and Wednesday with the teams that are going to be preparing the meals to make sure they understand that. But I couldn't be more proud of the group of folks that have been, that I have on my team that have been providing these meals. So every single one of you.
Nice.
Dave, this is Bob. I think the term essential workers were already in place for the nutrition services crew here. So congratulations to all for really pitching in and really being the front lines over the last few months of helping our families.
Got it.
Great job. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, so next up on our agenda, we have a resolution for funding that was distributed to all of you and is on the action item tonight. And I was wondering, just for the people on the on TV land, if there's one school committee member who would be willing to read the resolution.
Your resolution, Bob?
No, not my resolution. The resolution that's about a page and a half.
EA, correct, Bob? It's an MPA proposed statement?
Yes. The proposed statement that there were some edits on the on page 2 or the second part. There's some minor tweaks that we made.
Bob, read it.
Okay, I'm trying to bring it up here on my email. Someone else beat me to it by all means here. Hold on a second. Okay, here I go. So this is a resolution in support of education funding in the COVID-19 era. Whereas the Massachusetts legislature and governor enacted the Student Opportunity Act in 2019 because the state's school funding formula was out of date and failed to provide all students with the education to which they are constitutionally entitled. And whereas the inadequacy of funding was felt mostly deeply in school districts serving high concentrations of low-income students, English language learners, and students with disabilities. And whereas the Student Opportunity Act requires phasing in new funding formulas to provide greater resources for all school districts, with the largest share going to low-income districts. And whereas our students' needs are even greater now after public schools and colleges were shut down in mid-March in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas in the upcoming academic year, many students will need enhanced educational opportunities, technology, health, and guidance services. And whereas the need for these additional services exists in every school district and is greatest in school districts that would receive the largest share of new funding under the Student Opportunity Act. And whereas the federal, state, and local governments share responsibility for making sure all students receive the education to which they are constitutionally entitled. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fitchburg School Committee supports the following. Congress should approve funding for state and local governments in response to the economic crisis caused by this pandemic, raising revenues if necessary to ensure that they can fulfill their obligations to educate our students. The Massachusetts legislature and Governor Charlie Baker should fund public education pre-K through 12 at the level needed to improve student access, equity, and opportunity, and successful outcomes, both academic and social emotional, with appropriate, adequate, and necessary staffing and services. Fully fund the first year of the Student Opportunity Act and enable students and our students' economy to thrive as we begin recovering from the pandemic. And our city, town should maintain their commitment to fully fund our public schools.
Make a motion to accept the resolution just read by Superintendent Joko.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept. All in favor, Ms. Greenlease, if you would read the roll, please.
I suppose it would be good if I unmuted myself. I apologize.
That never happens to me.
Right. I'm so sorry. Mayor, technology.
Yeah, I know, believe me.
Mayor DiNatale,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Miss Gregan,
Yes.
Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Horgan.
Yes.
We are unanimous.
Thank you. Next, Bob.
Okay, great. So next up on the agenda is the school committee meeting calendar for 2021. This calendar was included in your packet. Just the pattern of meetings follows the historical pattern that we've had in terms of 2 a month on the first and third Monday of the month with 1 meeting in September. Given the uncertainty, as Dave Semenza mentioned earlier, in terms of not yet knowing what model Fitchburg and school districts across the Commonwealth will be returning to in the fall, what guidance regarding, transportation, social distancing, health considerations, transportation, and in addition, the funding from the Commonwealth. It will probably be necessary to have meetings in July and August, whether it be of the full school committee meeting or subcommittees, principally the resources subcommittee and or the personnel subcommittee. So again, shared with you tonight is the proposed calendar once we get into the school year, and I wanted to just be upfront with all committee members about the likelihood of needing to meet during the summer. And the one thing that is different from prior years, a difference that I think we've adapted to pretty successfully over the last few months, is now including that the meetings can be streamed on FATV. Any comments?
Sounds good.
Okay, there being no further comments, I'd like to have Eva Kelly give a quick update on the importance of the census. And I believe after Eva provides a little bit of context as to the importance of the census, FATV has a brief, I think it's 31-second video to show. So Eva, the screen is yours.
Okay, so just a little update. They've extended the census data collection operation until the end of October. It was initially scheduled just to run through the end of August, but they've extended it due to the COVID-19 crisis. As you know, Fitchburg can't afford to lose one dime in federal funding. And by falling short in the 2020 census, we're putting billions of dollars at risk. The importance of every resident of Fitchburg being counted in the census has taken on fresh urgency in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic and the economic recession it has triggered. The census is 10 questions. It takes about 10 minutes and only every 10 years. Right now, nationally, census participation is at 60.7%. Massachusetts is at 62.8%, and the city of Fitchburg is slightly behind at 60.1%. While we were planning some census activities, they've been canceled. So we're now ramping up to continue to provide videos like the one you're going to see shortly, and having them posted through the summer just to remind people how important it is to complete their census form. Do you guys have any questions about the census? Too much information, we're good?
This is Jim. And you may have said this even, but it's important to mention it again if you did, that individual results on a census form remain confidential for 72 years. Nobody can look at what you filled out. There's no way to track anybody down. 72 years from now, it won't matter to most of us what's on there.
Yes, no, yes. Thank you, Jim. Yep, the U.S. Census Bureau is bound by law to keep the answers completely confidential, and it cannot be shared with law enforcement, landlords, or any arm of the government outside of the Census Bureau. The information is solely used to determine the number of people who live in our communities. Thanks, Jim. Yep. Any questions? You're going to love this video. This is one of the videos will be during social media weekend, Census Social Media Weekend. We posted several videos in English and in Spanish, and here's one that we recently posted. So.
There will be parties again soon, and family gatherings. There will be parades and sporting events and concerts. To help our communities when they come back together, respond to the 2020 census now. Spend a few minutes online today to impact the next 10 years of healthcare, infrastructure, and education. Go to 2020census.gov and respond today to make America's tomorrow brighter. It's time to shape our future.
That's it.
Very nice.
Eva, thank you. And again, the census for healthcare, transportation, and for public education, as we receive funding from the federal government for Title I, IDEA, and some other smaller grants, is critical, and it really supplements the work that we here do in Fitchburg. So. Again, out there in TV land. Yep.
Would it be a tactic, I guess, to try to recruit some of the students in the district who have large social media following and get them to put something kind of fun and I don't know, edgy even out to get their parents to do the census? Because I know in the wake of the Black Lives Matter gathering in Fitchburg, I mean, so many of the kids that I know who are on social media, they're all talking with each other. They're all sharing petitions. They're all very active. And I think if they were recruited to make them understand that those numbers affect everything, from representation to resources and all of that, then I think they'd probably be some of the best advocates. I don't know if anybody's to use or to reach out to kids for this.
Jane, if we could put something together, Joan David in my office is coordinating this. You're going to start seeing billboards. Secretary of State's office reached out. The secretary reached out to me, provided us with $20,000 to do some advertising to make sure. I want to see us have the best numbers ever, and
right.
It affects all aspects of our lives. It's not a nice thing to do. It's getting our fair share. I mean, it really is. If you're availing yourselves of programs and resources, we should be counting you and getting as much revenue as we can from the feds. So that's what this is all about. So, and as reported before, all we want to know is that you're living here in Fitchburg. That's all. Anything other than that, we don't care. That's the truth. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think getting our fair share in Fitchburg, like you said, it touches so many things. We mentioned a few, but it also, childcare, transportation, healthcare. Mayor, you could probably add on 10 more categories where it's important for Fitchburg and every community in this country to be accurately counted. Because if we're not counted, that share may go to somebody else. And we want to make sure what is due Fitchburg comes to Fitchburg. And Gene, I think your idea on the social media is, a really good one because, students can be very influential, especially with their peers and their parents, and whether they, follow the news or these public service announcements as we're making tonight. Students listen to other students, so that peer learning and influencing could be what really tips it over the edge to make sure Fitchburg does get its fair share. So I think, something that we should look into.
We also need to maintain our congressional districts. If we should lose congressmen, we lose clout in Congress. So we do not need to lose any of our congressional congressmen in Congress.
Good point, Pete. Good point. So any other questions, comments on the census?
Sure. Great idea. I will do posts for, I don't know, the 10 or 12 groups I moderate on Facebook, including Stratton and Be Positive and different shelter groups, and classmates and reunions and creative writing and everything. So I'm going to do a bunch of posts, Eva. I'll let you know, or I'll report back, but I'll do it again like at the start of every month. This is great. They've extended it. I'm really happy about that.
Okay, well, thank you. So moving on, tonight you have an action item before you in regards to supporting a statement that I put together with input of cabinet, and really being, proactive as to what's happening across the country and Massachusetts, and what's happening in Fitchburg. A week and a half or so ago, there was a peaceful rally in Fitchburg. I think we were the first community in North Central Mass that hosted a rally for Black Lives Matter. And I think everything went off very smoothly, and it was extremely well done and very impactful. So I'd just like to read the statement.
Excuse me, wait a minute. Just to clarify something, this is twice that we've said it was a Black Lives Matter event. It was not.
Okay.
It was not.
Okay.
It was a Fitchburg event.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the correction. So the statement before you tonight, I'll read it so people on watching TV can hear it. Approve the superintendent's recommendation to support the following. Fitchburg Public Schools stands in solidarity with the Black community in denouncing racism and prejudice in all forms. We condemn the recent murder of George Floyd. Too many Black men and women have died without receiving justice in America. We have reached a point in America that we must address racism, unjust systems and practices with the goal of a more equitable society. At Fitchburg Public Schools, we are committed to changing our practices to be more inclusive and respectful. We're also committed to every student and family being equally seen and heard. We want to create lifelong learners and critical thinkers who will ask questions, listen thoughtfully, and work towards creating solutions to society's injustices. Our moral imperative is educating all members of our community by providing access, equity, and opportunity. I hope you join us on this journey to create a more inclusive, vibrant, and welcoming Fitchburg community.
Very good, Bob. Thank you.
Okay. So that wraps up my portion of tonight's agenda under the superintendent's report. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Shalafo on budget items. And I think just before I do, I just want to share some, I'll say, breaking news that during our meeting, we received an email from DESE informing us that the deadline for the Student Opportunity Act application has been amended from today, June 15th, 2020 to Tuesday, August 18, 2020. So I just wanted to share that with the school committee and the community at large of the late breaking news. So Craig, the screen is yours.
Bob, Craig, sorry, Craig. I just kind of moved on and I wasn't sure if anybody else was going to say anything. I'm just really glad to see the statement that you've put together. I think it's obviously really an important statement to make at this point for all institutions. And education is supposed to be the great equalizer, right? The place where people really can have opportunity. And I'm very proud that my children attend Fitchburg Public Schools. I'm very proud of the programs and events that we've always put on in this district. And the fact that humanity is humanity and we have to ensure that everybody gets the best possible opportunities is so important. So I just, before we just moved on, I just wanted to say thank you. I think it's a really great statement and an important one. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean.
Sorry, Craig.
That's fine, Jane. So we have one donation for acceptance this evening. It's from Mr. Jollymore and the Crocker PTO, donation of 30 Chromebooks to the school, Mr. Bolak, with an estimated value of $30. We have a number of grants to be submitted. Our Healthy Schools grant for FY21, that's a $10,000 grant. And it is to improve districts' student health and educational outcomes. As Superintendent Jokla just mentioned, the Student Opportunity Act, the SOA money, the Student Opportunity Act money of $2 million. And that is aimed at closing the persistent disparities in achievements among many of our subgroups. We have a number of our federal grants that will go in as typical during the summer months for our Title I. That's a $2.5 million grant to support ELA and math remediation at all schools. A Title IIA, $305,000 for mentoring in our induction program. Title III, $122,000 for support of our English language learners. A Title IV grant, $170,000, and that is to support well-rounded educational opportunities, healthy students, and support technology. We have two 21st century grants, one $381,000. It's a continuation grant for both Crocker, South Street, Rheingold programs. We have a new competitive application for 21st century. That's up to $150,000 that McKay will be applying for. We have another PL 94-142 grant that's $1.5 million to ensure eligible students with disabilities receive a free and appropriate public education. We have our special education early childhood grant, that's $46,833. And that is to ensure that eligible 3, 4, and 5-year-old children in the district with disabilities receive free and appropriate public education opportunities as well. Finally, we have our Perkins grant, that's $34,853. And that is to support career and technology education initiatives at Fitchburg High School. Also along the budget items for tonight, we have mention of paying transportation invoices. And this is something that we have discussed in the past. I just want to kind of put it into context. Since the COVID closures back on March 13th, our main transportation companies, First Student for our big bus transport, and Vanpool for our in-district special education students have not been providing services. Their invoices dating back to March for first student total of $711,000. And for Vanpool, they total $478,000. And these invoices have not been paid. That's not unique to the city of Fitchburg. This is something that has been in discussion statewide since the closure. The question of whether or not we can legally be paying these invoices for the services that have not been rendered. The governor just signed legislation about a week and a half ago that does enable cities to pay these or go into discussions with the transportation companies to pay the invoices dating back to March 13th. And we do have an action item tonight which refers or asks permission for us to engage in negotiations with both First Student and with Vanpool to discuss these invoice and design and sign memorandum of understandings to amend our current transportation contracts. I don't know if you had any questions around the transportation. Okay. I believe that's all I have, Mr. Jokla.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chancellor. So, Mr. Chair, we have no policy items tonight, and I'll return the screen or gavel back to you for the action items.
What is the committee's wishes on the action items?
Mayor, I would like to bundle, but I also would like to take Mr. Jokela's recommendation separately so that we can all vote on it.
Recommendation
is on Black Lives Matter.
Okay. All right, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we need a roll call on this?
Yes, I think
Yes.
it's important.
Greenlees.
Yes, sir.
Before you do the roll call, Mrs. Greenlees, are we voting to bundle items 1305 through 1307 and 1309 through 1311?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
All items except for the superintendent's recommendation to support
Right.
1308.
Can I just add, I don't see a vote for the resolution on the action item. If
Does it
we want
require
to,
a vote? I don't believe it does.
Okay, that's your call. Yeah.
Simply submit it. Right?
We'll submit it.
And
Okay.
with the approval of the committee, I mean,
Okay.
by acclamation. Okay.
Then we could just bundle.
Right. And that's we're voting on whether or not to approve the bundling. So Ms. Greenlees, please.
Yes. Could I clarify one thing quickly?
Yes.
Did I just understand discussion to mean that agenda item 1308 would be reinserted into the bundle rather than separated out as per Mr. Stevens' previous request?
Yeah, I'm looking at 1308. That does not contain the statement from.
Doesn't need it. What you were saying, it doesn't need to be an action item.
The entire 20-1308?
That
No, the statement. I agree. Right. But that's not in 1308.
Correct. And that resolution that was read earlier was voted on and approved unanimously.
That was the resolution from MTA.
Correct.
Yes.
1308 is different
Right.
from
Yeah.
Right. 1308 is different.
Yes.
Yes. So is the
So we're
preference,
including it in 1305 up through and including 1310.
Okay.
1311.
1311?
11, is there 11?
Yes.
No, I don't have the revised version again. Okay. So 1311. And what we're calling the roll to vote on whether or not we are going to bundle, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So begin.
All right. Mayor DiNatale,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Ms. Cragen,
Yes.
Mrs. Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Horgan.
Yes.
Yes, we are unanimous on the motion to bundle.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bundle that was just approved. That's
Second.
Second. Again, roll.
Yes. One moment, please. Okay. Mayor DiNatale,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
yes.
Mrs. Cragen,
Yes.
Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Horgan.
Yes.
We are unanimous.
Next, we're taking a vote on executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations. We require a roll call on this as well.
Yes, sir. Mayor DiNatale,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Ms. Cragen,
Yes.
Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Horgan.
Yes.
We are unanimous.
Thank you. We will be entering into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations to only come out and adjourn as a result. So how's this work?